Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'een. Wa ba'd. My dear respected elders, brothers and sisters, I'd like to thank you first for the invite to come and visit you in Northampton. And alhamdulillah, it's good to see a beautiful community that is here. I actually worked in Northampton many years ago, 2011. And this masjid I don't think established then, so I didn't see it then. But alhamdulillah, I'm glad to see that the community is growing, and mashallah, it's such a big masjid and people upon the sunnah being found here. Which one's working? This one or this one? This one as well. Okay, so I want my topic of my lecture today is about taqwa. Okay, and following on from knowing about the iman in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and issues about tawheed, I'm going to slightly focus onto another topic slightly differently, and inshallah we'll try to cover as much as we can before iftar. Firstly, we'll talk about the definition of taqwa. And then secondly, we'll talk about the fruits and the benefits of taqwa. Then we'll talk about the signs of taqwa upon a person. How does a person who has taqwa, what are they like? What are the signs? Then we'll talk about the effects of taqwa on an individual. And then we'll talk about the effects of taqwa on society at large as well. Okay? And then we'll mention as well the issue of how Ramadhān and the fasting in Ramadhān leads to taqwa. Okay? So the first thing to say is that the reason why we find that our topic is called Ramadhān, the month of taqwa, why Ramadhān is linked to taqwa, is because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has told us in the Quran in Surah Baqarah that Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu kutiba alaykumus siyamu kama kutiba ala alladhina min qablikum la'allakum tattaqun. O you who believe, observe the fast, or observing the fasting, observing Sawm is prescribed for you as it was prescribed for those before you, so that you may become people of taqwa, al-muttaqun, people of piety and taqwa. Okay? So one of the purposes of the fasting of the month of Ramadan, or one of the secrets behind the fasting of the month of Ramadan, is to cause taqwa to come into us. Okay? So it's important for us to know the purpose, because if we go through this month and by the end of the month there's no change in our taqwa level, then we haven't succeeded. We haven't had a successful Ramadan. The successful Ramadan is only if we find that our taqwa increases and that we start to take on board into our lives things that bring about taqwa. Okay? So firstly, if we look, the word taqwa specifically is used in the Quran over 100 times. Okay? And then if you look at the derivatives of the word taqwa, then those occur over 250 times in the Quran. Okay, so taqwa, the Quran is full of instructions and guidances towards taqwa, and it increases the taqwa in people. So strangely though, you won't find anywhere in the Quran, and you won't find anywhere in the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ the definition of taqwa. You won't find it. You won't find the ta'rif of taqwa in either the words of Allah, nor in the words of the Rasul ﷺ. Okay? This was something that the Sahaba, they understood. Okay? The Arabs, they understood the meaning of it. But as time's gone by, scholars have clarified the meaning, because people have become mixed up. People have sort of lost touch with the reality of the meaning. So the scholars have defined it. Okay. Now when it comes to any definition in the Islamic Sharia, in Islamic knowledge, then we always talk about two aspects. Okay. We talk about the meaning of a word in the language, and we talk about the meaning of a word in the technical sense. Okay. So what they call lughatan and istilahan. Okay. So if we look at any word, for example, if you look at the word salah, okay? Salah in Arabic means something, and in the Sharia it means something else. Okay, in Arabic, the actual linguistic meaning of salah is the same as dua. Making dua and calling upon Allah, for example, comes under the linguistic meanings of salah. But when you talk about the Shari meaning of salah, then it's the famous and well-known act of worship that we know, which starts from the takbir and ends in the taslim. Okay, and all of the words and the actions that go into that. So with regards to taqwa, then taqwa has a linguistic meaning and it has a technical meaning. And the meanings are related, just like we see with salah, the dua, and then the action of salah itself. Those two things are linked. Likewise, we find the taqwa, the linguistic and the technical meaning of it is linked as well. So at-taqwa is min al-wiqaya. Okay, it is from the word al-wiqaya. And if you look in the dictionary at what al-wiqaya means in English, then this comes with the meanings of protection, preservation, safeguarding, safekeeping, prevention, precaution, and prophylaxis. Okay? All of these meanings. And the ulama say that wiqaya also a as-sawn wal-himaya as well. Okay? A as-sawn is also containing within it meanings of conservation, preservation, to guard something, to keep something, to maintain something, to care for something, to defend something, to save something, or to protect something. Okay? And then al-himaya, this also, it means to protect something, to be protection or defense. Okay? Safeguarding and sheltering. And it comes from the fi'l, the verb waqa. Okay? Waqa yaqi wiqaya. And again, this verb as well means to guard, to preserve, to take good care of, to safeguard, to shield, to shelter, to preserve, and to protect. Okay? And another meaning of it as well is to be wary, to be aware of something, to be on your guard, and to protect oneself, and to make sure, to double check things and make sure. Okay? And the another concept which is closely related to it is the concept of hifz, al-hifz. Okay? And this is again to keep something, to preserve something, to protect something, safeguard something, conserve something, etc. And also a concept called at-tajannub, okay, which is to avoid something, to avert something, to ward off something, protect yourself from something, keep away from something. And so the definition in the linguistic sense of taqwa, therefore, is that whatever is possible for a human being to protect and preserve themselves and to defend themselves. Okay, this is the linguistic meaning of taqwa. Okay, whatever a person uses or whatever a person does to protect themselves and to preserve themselves and to defend themselves, okay, from any type of damage, any type of harm. The technical meaning, what they call the istilahi meaning, is that a Muslim, he establishes or she establishes a protection or a precaution or a safeguard between themselves and between the ghadab, the anger of Allah, and the punishment of Allah as well. Okay, so that a Muslim establishes some kind of protection, some kind of precaution, some kind of safeguarding between themselves and between the anger and the punishment and the displeasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is the meaning of taqwa in the Sharia. Okay, and the way that this is done is also part of the definition as well. The way that this is done is by doing ittiba and following of the commands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and by obeying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and by keeping away from the things that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has prohibited and restricted. Okay, so this is all part of the technical meaning of taqwa. So if you look in different works, then you find taqwa is described sort of in these terms. You find, for example, also God consciousness, piety, piousness, fear of Allah, and love for Allah, so joined together, and self-restraint. You find being careful about your deen, This is also from the technical meaning of taqwa. Something that you raise yourself to a level where you are conscious of Allah and of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala watching you and of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's knowledge of you. And something as well, this taqwa that motivates you to perform righteous good deeds and to keep away from evil deeds. So all of this is the technical meaning of taqwa. Okay, and one of the imams of our time, Shaykh Abdul Aziz bin Baz rahimahullah, when he defined taqwa, he said that it is to worship Allah by doing the things that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has ordered, al-awamir, bi-fi'l al-awamir. So by doing the actions that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has commanded us to do. Okay, so in the Sharia there's two types of commands. Okay, there's one type of command which is sort of obligatory to follow. Okay, it's becomes lazim upon the person, so you have to follow the command. Another type of command is a command which is being done so that you are encouraged to do something. Okay, so taqwa includes them both. Okay, so if we look at them, those things in a different terminology, then we would say that the fi'l al-awamir is that you do those things which are fard and wajib, and you also do those things which are sunnah and mustahab or mandub, etc. Okay, recommended as well as obligatory. This is taqwa, first thing. And وَالتَّرْكُ النَّوَاهِ, yeah, and to leave the things that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has forbidden and advised us to leave. Okay, so the nahi as well is of two types. Okay, one type is something that is forbidden and you are obliged to refrain from that thing. This thing is called haram. Okay, another thing, for example, is that you've been advised to leave it, but it's not from the angle of you definitely having to leave it. It's just an advice, better for you to leave this, and that thing is called makruh. Okay, so the person of taqwa is a person who performs all the obligatory actions, they perform the recommended actions, they keep away from the haram actions, and they also keep away from the actions which are generally detested, even if they're not to the level of haram. Okay, and it continues. And khawfin min Allah. Okay, from fear of Allah. Okay, so having fear of Allah is part of taqwa. So when we fear Allah, we are fearing Allah's anger, we are fearing Allah's displeasure, we are fearing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's punishment, yeah, in this life and in the next life. Okay, and then the Shaykh says, وَأَنْ رَغْبَةٍ فِي مَا عِنْدَهُ, and also to have sort of a desire and a hope for what is with him. So meaning that you want what's Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has got in terms of the blessings as well. Okay, and you are sort of working towards Jannah as well. Okay, so this is part of taqwa as well. And also having a sort of respect for the boundaries that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has put in place. Okay, the boundaries that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made in this life for human beings, to have respect for those, this is part of taqwa as well. Okay, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us freedom within certain bounds, that these are the things that you're allowed to do, these are the things you're not allowed to do. So you can stay within this bound and act as you wish, but don't cross this boundary, don't cross that boundary. Having this in mind and giving that importance, this is part of taqwa as well. And also to have muhabba as well, to have love. The Shaykh said, to have true love for Allah and for His Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Okay, so these are how Shaykh bin Baz rahimahullah, he defines taqwa, and these are all necessary parts of it. And then generally we can also say, as the ulama have said, that taqwa is a comprehensive word, and it includes everything that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves and is pleased with, from the actions which are desirable and from abandoning the prohibitions. Okay, so everything that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves, you are going towards, you are doing, and everything that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is displeased with, you are keeping away from. This is a comprehensive word for taqwa. Like we just heard mentioned, our deen is taken from the Quran, from the Sunnah, and from the understanding of the companion. Okay? So when as I said, we don't find taqwa defined in the Quran, we don't find taqwa defined in the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, but we do find that there are definitions which come from the Sahaba. Okay, so I'll just cover two definitions that come from the Sahaba as well. And the first one is a definition which comes from Abu Huraira radiallahu anhu, but also a very similar definition comes from Ubay bin Ka'ab radiallahu anhu as well. So Umar ibn al-Khattab, when he was Amirul Mu'mineen, he asked Ubay bin Ka'ab, who was one of the great fuqaha, as long as Umar himself radiallahu anhu, one of the 6 major fuqaha of the Sahaba. These two are both in there. Okay? And Ubay bin Ka'ab, he was one of the most understanding of the Quran as well. Okay? That's why Umar radiallahu anhu, in the month of Ramadhān, he pushed him forward to lead the Tarawih. Okay? And we find in the Muwatta of Imam Malik the narration that Umar ibn al-Khattab, he made Ubay bin Ka'ab lead the people in the Tarawih with 11 rakahs. Okay? But Umar once asked Ubay radiallahu anhuma, now what is taqwa? Okay, and likewise somebody came and asked Abu Huraira the same question, that what is taqwa? So we will go through what Abu Huraira radiallahu anhu said. He said, Hal salakta tariqan fihi shawk, that have you ever gone along a path in which there were thorns? Yeah, and the person said, yes, I have. And he said, that what did you do? Okay, and then the person replied that he took care to watch out for the thorns and to save himself from them. And in the narration of Ubay bin Ka'ab, Umar radiallahu anhu, he said that I rolled up my garment and I was cautious as to where I would step to avoid being pricked by thorns. Okay? So this is the way that somebody would walk down a thorny path. And nowadays we don't walk down thorny paths. But maybe we could say that a similar thing would be that if you go down an alleyway, and in the alleyway there's sort of barbed wire or something else sticking out, how will you walk down that path? This is a similar way. You'll tuck up your clothes and you'll watch each step. Where am I putting each step? Okay? So then Abu Huraira, and again as well with Ubay bin Ka'ab radiallahu anhuma, they both replied that this is taqwa. The way that you walked down the path, the thorny path, this is taqwa. Okay? So taqwa, if you look at it, taqwa is a concept. It's not something you can look at, is it? You can't say, show me taqwa. Yeah, it's a concept, it's a metaphor, it's a metaphorical thing. Yeah? The Sahaba, they gave it a physical comparison to help understand, to reach inside the mind. Yeah? And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does this in the Quran in many places as well. So this sort of physical example helps us to understand the concept behind, the conceptual thing, okay? Which is not something physical that you can sense. They give you something physical that you can understand in your mind, okay? So just the same way that if you are going to walk down the path, you're going to firstly gather your clothing together. You're not going to just walk down the path with a long thobe flowing around and it's going to get torn by the thorns. It's going to get caught in the thorns, trip you over, or you know, make you fall, or you know, cause you to become uncovered, etc. So you're going to take care of your clothing. You're going to, you know, the things that are around you, you're going to make sure that protection is there. And then you're going to take care, and you're going to step each step, and you're going to look, where am I putting this step? Am I going to tread on the thorn? Am I going to step on the barbed wire or not? Yeah, and then when you've got your foot, then you're very carefully going to place the next foot. You're not going to rush through. Yeah? Likewise, this life is the same. That if you just rush through this life without care, then you will be caught by the thorns. Yeah? You will be sort of every doubt, every desire that comes your way, you will fall prey to it. Yeah? So the way of taqwa is that you watch out for things. You look ahead. What's coming that could harm me? What we're concerned about harm primarily is what could harm my iman, what could harm my akhirah. So you protect yourself in all ways from doing this. Okay? And This is something which is well mentioned by the scholars. And one of the poets, he mentioned about taqwa, that خَلِّ الذُّنُوبَ صَغِيرَهَا وَكَبِيرَهَا, okay, that leave the sins, the big of them and the small of them. ذَاكَ التُّقَى وَاسْنَعْ كَمَاشٍ فَوْقَ أَرْضِ الشَّوْكِ يَحْضُرُ مَا يَرَى لَا تَحْقِرَنَّ صَغِيرَةً. That basically keep away from the sins which are major and minor, and this is taqwa, and behave like the person who walks down the path, which is a thorny path, and he is wary of what he sees. He's looking out for the things that he can see in the path. And that la tahqarinna saghiratan innal jibala min al-hasa, and do not look down upon any small sin, because even mountains are made from small rocks. Yeah, so this is one definition of taqwa as well, which is taken from the definition of Abu Hurairah radiallahu anh, that the person of taqwa is such that he will watch out for and be careful from all of the thorns along the path, and he won't sort of look down upon any sin. He won't think this sin is just small, because he knows that the sins add up together, and that even the mountains are made from small rocks. So that's one definition. Another definition which is extremely beautiful is from another great Sahabi, and again from the major 6 fuqaha of the Sahaba, which is Ali bin Abi Talib radiallahu anhu. Okay? Ali radiallahu anhu, he was also asked that what is taqwa, and he gave 3 sort of sentences that as a response, and these are extremely important. He said, هي الخوف من الجليل والعمل بما في التنزيل والاستعداد ليوم الرحيل. Okay, it is fear from al-jalil, meaning fear from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and action with what is in the tanzil, action with what is in what was revealed, the Quran, yeah, and preparation for the day of departure. Okay, so this is taqwa according to Ali bin Abi Talib radiallahu anhu. 3 main things here. Firstly, you have fear from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Yeah, the believer is always between a state of hope and fear. This is taqwa. There's a narration from Umar ibn al-Khattab radiallahu anhu, that he said that on the day of judgment, if it's announced that all of the people are going to hell and only one person is going to heaven, I would still hope that that one person is me. And if it's announced on the day of judgment that all of the people are going to heaven and only one person is going to hell, I would fear that that person is me. Okay, this is taqwa. That a person is between having hope in Allah's mercy and fear of Allah's punishment. Okay, so the first thing that we have to have in ourselves if we want to have taqwa is that we have fear from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay, and the only one that can fear Allah truly is the one who has true belief in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Yeah, not somebody who fears black cats, or somebody who fears rocks and trees, goes and worships a tree if you can't have a child. This person doesn't have fear of Allah. This is not al-khawf min al-jaleel. Yeah? Such superstitious type of people, they don't have this proper iman, that they have proper fear and hope in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَالْعَمَلُ بِمَا فِي التَّنزِيلِ, and to act upon that which is in the revelation. Okay? What was revealed, what was sent down by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent down 2 things. One is the Quran, and the other is the Sunnah. Okay? Both of these are wahi. One is called wahi jali, the other one is called wahi khafi. Both things Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent down. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us, وَمَا يَنْتِقُ عَنِ الْهَوَىٰ إِنْ هُوَ إِلَّا وَحْيٌ يُوحَىٰ. Okay? The Messenger sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he does not speak of his own desire. It is only a revelation revealed. So all of the speech of the Messenger, all of the actions of the Messenger, all of the behavior of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and all of his approvals, all of the things that have to do with the deen, everything is revelation from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So acting upon the Quran and acting upon the Sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, this is the second aspect of taqwa according to the definition of Ali radiallahu anhu. And then the third one is that a person, he prepares for death. The day of departure that Ali radiallahu anhu is referring to, Yawmul Rahil, the day of the travel, the day of the departure, is the death from this world. Yeah? Every one of us, kullu nafsin dha'iqatul maut, every single one of us is going to taste death. It's upon us, therefore, to prepare for that. Yeah? You know, there's a saying, there's only two things certain in life, death and taxes. Yeah? Everybody prepares for their tax return. Nobody gets late for their tax return because they know they're going to get £100 fine. But when it comes to death, we are preparing. The person of taqwa, however, they prepare for their death, before the death. Not that you die and the angel of death comes to you, now you say, give me more time. Or you die and Allah stands you in front of him and then you say, oh Allah, send me back. Yeah, so these are the things that Ali radiallahu anhu, he mentioned. So moving on to mention some of the fruits and the benefits of taqwa. Okay, so taqwa has many benefits and many fruits, and these are both in the dunya and in the akhirah as well. And these are amazing and huge benefits, and they are many, too many for us to enumerate. So we are only going to be able to mention some of them. So just from what they say, ala sabil al-mithal la lil-hasar, this is just for giving some. There's no way I can encompass all of them. The first one that you can mention is that a person of taqwa, they obtain the pleasure of Allah and the love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay? This is the main thing that a person should want. That they achieve the pleasure of Allah, they achieve the love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is one of the fruits of taqwa, this is one of the effects of taqwa, this is one of the things that result from having taqwa, one of the benefits of taqwa. And one of the things that show us this is that the Prophet ﷺ told us in a hadith in Bukhari that إن الله تعالى قال من عادى لي وليا فقد آذنته بالحرب وما تقرب إلي عبدي بشيء أحب إلي مما افترضته عليه وما يزال عبدي يتقرب إلي بالنوافل حتى أحبه. So the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said in a hadith Qudsi. Hadith Qudsi is a hadith where the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam is narrating something that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has said, but not part of the Quran. Yeah? So one difference, for example, between Hadith Qudsi and Quran is that Hadith Qudsi, from the tilawah of Hadith Qudsi, you don't get the reward of the tilawah of Quran. Okay? But this is still the words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and still for us to pay attention to. That the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, verily Allah ta'ala has said, whoever shows enmity to a friend, wali of mine, to a wali of mine, which is loosely translated as friend, then I declare war against him. Okay, so this is, the person of taqwa is the wali of Allah. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has said, and my servant does not draw near to me with anything more beloved to me than the religious duties I have obligated upon him, and my servant continues to draw near to me with the nawafil deeds until I love him. Okay? فَإِذَا أَحْبَبْتُهُ كُنْتُ سَمْعَهُ الَّذِي يَسْمَعُ بِهِ وَبَصَرُهُ الَّذِي يُبْصِرُ بِهِ وَيَدَهُ الَّتِي يَبْطِشُ بِهِ وَبِهَا وَرِجْلَهُ الَّتِي يَمْشِي بِهَا. Okay? And when I love him, then I become, or I am his hearing with which he hears, and his sight by which he sees, and his hand by which he strikes, and his foot by which he walks. وَإِن سَأَلَنِي لَأُعْطِيَنَّ وَإِنْ اسْتَعَاذَنِي لَأُعِيذَنَّ وَمَا تَرَدَّدْتُ عَنْ شَيْءٍ أَنَا فَاعِلُهُ تَرَدُّدِي عَنْ نَفْسِ الْمُؤْمِنِ يَكْرَهُ الْمَوْتَ وَأَنَا أَكْرَهُ الْمُسَاعَةَ. That were he to ask me of something, I would give it to him. I would surely give it to him. And were he to seek refuge with me, then I would surely grant him refuge. And I do not hesitate over anything as much as I hesitate over taking the life of the believer, because he dislikes death and I dislike to sort of upset him, etc. Okay? Now this is in Bukhari. So this shows the situation of the person of taqwa. That the person of taqwa is a friend of Allah. Okay? And the person of taqwa, he gets close to Allah. And the way he does this closeness to Allah is by doing the religious obligatory duties first. Okay? So this hadith clearly shows that the person who isn't doing the obligatory duties is not a friend of Allah. You can't jump to the end without taking the path. The first step on the path is that you do all the obligatory duties. Okay, so if we are now in the month of Ramadan and we are people that are falling short in our obligatory duties, the first thing that we need to do is the obligations. Okay, so if we're not praying 5 times a day, this is our number one role. Okay, if we are not fasting in the month of Ramadan, then this is what we need to do, unless of course we have a valid excuse. If we are not giving our zakat, if it's due upon us, then we need to do that. If we are not performing hajj when we are supposed to be performing hajj, then we need to look at that, and we need to pay these obligatory duties. Also from obligatory duties is to leave the things that are haram as well. Leaving haram is an obligation. So if somebody is doing the obligations but they're also engaging in the haram actions, they need to leave this as well if they want to become a person of taqwa and they want to become close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this is how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, وَمَا تَقَرَّبَ إِلَيَّ عَبْدِي بِشَيْءٍ. This is how a person becomes firstly close to Allah. You become close to Allah by performing the obligatory duties. Then you get even closer to Allah. So one is you first draw close, then get closer to Allah by doing the supererogatory actions. Okay? So this is the order that they should be in. Sometimes, unfortunately, we find that there's some people, they don't do the obligations necessarily, but they may be busying themselves with supererogatory actions. Yeah, so for example, I've seen some examples as well, that a person, he may not pray the 5 obligatory prayers, but when he comes for one prayer, then he starts praying the sunnah before the prayer and the sunnah after the prayer. Concentrate first on getting your obligations in place. Yeah? Some people, they are not praying Fajr and they're praying Taraweeh. Yeah, this sounds crazy, but people do this. Yeah? They won't pray Fajr, but they will pray the Taraweeh because they seem to think that Taraweeh somehow is linked to the fast. If you don't pray the Taraweeh, you can't fast, etc. Or somebody is fasting and he's not praying during his fasting. Yeah, this is upside down. These are not the ways of the people of taqwa. The person of taqwa draws closer to Allah by doing the obligations. Then he gets closer to Allah than that by doing the nawafil. Okay? So doing extra actions, all the recommended actions that are not obligatory. So the person of taqwa needs to do these as well. Likewise, the person of taqwa first is keeping away from all the haram. Then after keeping away from the haram, they're also keeping away from the disliked things as well. Okay? And as they get closer to Allah, they get more good deeds and less evil deeds. This is how you get closer and closer. This is taqwa. Okay? Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, this is when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala begins to love the person. Okay? So you become a beloved friend of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When you become a beloved friend of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then what does this mean now? That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that I am his hearing by which he hears. Okay, the scholars have explained that this means that this person now does not listen to anything except what pleases Allah. So he won't listen to music, he won't listen to evil filth talk, he won't be happy sitting if people are backbiting and engaging in slander, tale carrying, gossiping. This person now, because of his love for Allah and Allah's love for him, the person is now protected, his hearing is protected. And I am his sight by which he sees. Again, meaning that he doesn't want to look at anything that is forbidden. He doesn't want to look at things which are disliked to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He will look at what is beneficial for him. He'll be spending his time looking at the words of Allah in the Quran. He'll be spending time attending circles of knowledge, learning his deen. This is what the meaning is. And his hand by which he strikes, and his foot by which he walks, meaning even his actions then become all under what Allah wants, and all of them away from Allah's displeasure. Always, basically everything this person of taqwa then does, they become an instrument of Allah's pleasure. Every action of theirs, internal, external, is for the sake of Allah, and they keep away from everything that Allah's displeasure is with, okay? And they come to a level where their love and their dislike, their love and their hate is only for the sake of Allah. They love something because they know Allah loves this, not because of any other reason. They hate something because they know Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala hates this, not for any other reason. Sometimes somebody, for example, they may like something that is liked in Islam, and they may dislike something which is disliked in Islam, but they don't do it for the sake of Allah. But doing it for the sake of Allah, this is taqwa. And this is what is rewardable. This is when Allah will give you ajr and sawab, yeah? And you'll get this in the next life. So then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us even more that this person of taqwa, he gets to the level now where when he asks of something, then Allah gives it. Okay? The more pious the person is, the closer to Allah the person is. You find these people, they are people who Allah answers their du'as. They're such beloved people to Allah that when they ask Allah for something, Allah answers it. Yeah? And when they seek Allah's help and Allah's refuge, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives it to them, gives them help and refuge. They're not the kind of person that you never remember Allah except in trouble, then remember Allah. This is not the person of taqwa. The person of taqwa, one of the things is they're constantly making zikr of Allah. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala then says that he becomes so beloved to Allah that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not want him to go through any pain or hardship at all. And even giving him death, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't like doing that because of his love for this person. So this is one of the main fawaid and thamarat of taqwa. Okay, that a person, they become in the dunya and in the akhirah beloved to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay. And another huge and major benefit of taqwa, one that we cannot do without, is that Allah does not accept good deeds except with certain conditions. Okay? Allah does not accept the deeds just like that. The deeds have to meet certain conditions. Okay? We already heard mentioned in the first lecture some of the conditions. Firstly, the person has to be a person of tawheed. A person who does shirk, their actions are not acceptable to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay? That includes whether they're doing shirk in that action or whether they do shirk in other actions. Yeah? If you do, for example, if somebody, and Allah save us all from here from doing anything like this, but if somebody, for example, part of the time they go to the grave and they go and ask the dead person in the grave that, oh, so-and-so dead in the grave, can you fulfill my need? Yeah? Or can you even be my intercessor and go and do this for me? This is shirk. Now when he comes to the masjid, he prays to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Neither action is accepted by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Just like before we do an action, if I ask you a question, if somebody comes to the Taraweeh and he prays beautifully, he comes and stands in the front row, he prays with concentration and everything, but he said, I was feeling lazy, I didn't want to do wudu. So I didn't do wudu, I just came. Is his salah acceptable? No. Is this a harsh fatwa? Is this harsh? No, it's not harsh. It's reality. Yeah? Do wudu, man. What's wrong with you? Yeah? You want to pray? Do wudu. Likewise, you want Allah to accept your ibadah, then make yourself a muwahhid. The spiritual purity is more important than the physical purity. So just like somebody comes to the prayer physically impure, you've gone to the toilet, you've passed wind, you haven't washed yourself, you've come physically impure to pray, your prayer won't go anywhere, won't rise. Likewise, more so, that if you've come and you've got filth of shirk in your soul, your ibadah won't go raised up to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala won't accept the ibadah of people who also are not people of taqwa. Okay? Taqwa is one of the conditions for the acceptance of by Allah of our actions. Person who doesn't fear Allah, person who doesn't love Allah, he does an action of worship, even if he's not doing some other outward action of shirk, this itself destroys his actions. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in Surah Ma'idah, إِنَّمَا يَتَقَبَّلُ اللَّهُ مِنَ الْمُتَّقِينَ. That innama means only, and this, the thing that's being mentioned, only this thing and nothing other than this thing. Allah will only accept from those who are people of taqwa. So a person who's not a person of taqwa, their actions are not acceptable. So taqwa needs to be there. This is something, there's levels of taqwa, but you need to be along that path. You need to be having consciousness and fear of Allah when you're doing your actions. And this is one of the benefits of taqwa as well, that a person comes into the fold of those people whose actions are now acceptable by Allah and whose actions can be rewarded on the Day of Judgment. Another benefit that the scholars have mentioned and that is found in the Quran and Sunnah for taqwa, and a fruit of taqwa and a benefit from taqwa, is that a person is defended and protected from the harms of shaitan. And taqwa is like a fortress between the person and shaitan and shaitan's plots and plans against him. And also a shield, the scholars mention, a shield from the waswasa as well. The more taqwa you have, the more stronger you are to face the waswas of shaitan. Another big benefit of having taqwa is that you become one of those people who is with Allah. Okay, it's called ma'iyya. Okay, you are with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us, "Inna Allaha ma'al ladhina attaqaw wal ladhina hum muhsinun." Indeed, Allah is with those who fear Him, who have taqwa of Him, and those who are muhsinun, who excel in doing good. Okay, so you become one of these people, that you are those people that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is with these people. Okay, and who is a muhsin? What is ihsan? There's a famous hadith of Jibreel where Jibreel alayhi salam came when the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam was sitting with his companions one day, and he asked the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam some questions, and the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam answered the questions, and the questioning and the answering, this benefited the listeners. Okay, and one of the questions that Jibreel alayhi salam asked the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam was that, what is ihsan? Yeah? And the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he answered, "An ta'budullaha ka'annaka tarahu, fa in lam takun tarahu fa innahu yara." That it is to worship Allah as if you can see Him. Yeah, it's that ihsan. It's that level of a person's iman, and Islam's got to this level now, that they are worshipping Allah as if they can see Allah. فَإِن لَمْ تَكُنْ تَرَاهُ فَإِنَّهُ يَرَاهُ. That if you cannot see Him, you can't see Allah, but the person knows that Allah is seeing him. Okay, so these are levels of taqwa. That person, he worships Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as if he can see Allah in front of him, but he can't see Allah, and he can't do that level. He does it as if he knows that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is watching him. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is watching us, so we know that. But when we forget that, we go away from taqwa. Taqwa is that we are remembering that all of the time. This consciousness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So, inna Allaha ma'al ladhina attaqaw wal ladhina hum muhsinun. Indeed, Allah is with those who have taqwa of Him and those who are the muhsinun, the doers of good, the doers of ihsan. Okay? Another thing is that the person of taqwa is the one who will truly benefit from knowledge. Okay? And who will truly benefit from the revelation. You know, what does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tell us right at the beginning of the Quran? Alif Lam Mim, ذَلِكَ الْكِتَابُ لَا رَيْبَ فِيهِ هُدًى لِلْمُتَّقِينَ. Yeah? So the guidance that's been sent down, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says Alif Lam Mim, we don't know the meaning of these words. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us right at the beginning of the Quran that our knowledge is limited. ذَلِكَ الْكِتَابُ, this is the book of which there is no doubt, a guidance for the muttaqeen, the people of piety. Okay? So the scholars say that one of the fruits and benefits of taqwa is that you will benefit from the Quran. Without taqwa, you won't benefit. That guidance is for the people of taqwa. Okay? Another one is that in this dunya, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will make our affairs easy, and in the hereafter as well. Okay? So your affairs, once you become a person of taqwa, like we mentioned, what we mentioned, the hadith of Bukhari, yeah, that the Prophet ﷺ told us that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talked about his wali, that he becomes the hand by which he strikes, the feet by which he walks. Things become easy for that person. This is another fruit of taqwa, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in the Quran as well, وَمَنْ يَتَّقِ اللَّهَ يَجْعَلْ لَهُ مِنْ أَمْرِهِ يُسْرًا. that whoever has taqwa of Allah, then Allah makes for his matters ease. He makes his matters easy for him. The person of taqwa, he finds that his path becomes easy. He goes somewhere, Allah puts blessings in that thing. He goes somewhere else, Allah puts barakah there as well. And this is one of the benefits of taqwa. And sometimes if a person is in difficulty, like the hadith said, that if he seeks refuge with Allah, I will give him refuge. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in the Quran as well, وَمَنْ يَتَّقِ اللَّهَ يَجْعَلْ لَهُ مَخْرَجًا, that whoever fears Allah, then Allah will grant him a way out. We all have times in our life when we are stuck in a situation. Taqwa is the way out of every situation, every problem that we are facing. Okay? And then sometimes we are asking Allah. The hadith said as well that when he asks, I will give him. And we are asking Allah for our needs. Likewise, one of the fruits and benefits of taqwa is that Allah will give you your needs as well. وَيَرْزُقْهُ مِنْ حَيْثُ لَا يَحْتَسِبْ. And for the person who has taqwa, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the next ayah, and he will provide for him from sources he could never imagine. This is from the fruits of taqwa. A person is constantly conscious of Allah, constantly doing the things that we've described. That person, he will then find his matters becoming easy. When he's in difficulty, he will find ways out. And when he's in need of things, Allah will be giving him the things that he's asking for. Likewise, we mentioned already that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has said that the guidance in the Quran is for the muttaqeen. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has also said in the Quran that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will, for the people of taqwa, He will grant them a criterion, okay, that they'll be able to judge things with. This is right, this is wrong. This is one big thing that a human being needs. If you look at the misguided people, they don't know right from wrong. One year they say this is right, next year say no, this is right. One year they say this is a crime punishable by this XYZ. The next time they say actually no, we decided it's not a crime anymore. Then they say actually no, it's not even a crime, it's purely natural. Then they now say it's actually obligatory, you teach every child this. Yeah? This is the people who don't have a furqan. They don't have any criterion. Having the criterion is a great blessing. And one of the fruits and the benefits of taqwa is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives you a furqan as well. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has said in Surah Anfal, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu, in tattaqullaha yaj'al lakum furqanan. That Allah will give you a furqan, a criterion. Or you who have believed, if you fear Allah, He will grant you a criterion. وَيُكَفِّرْ عَنْكُمْ سَيِّئَاتِكُمْ وَيَغْفِرْ لَكُمْ وَاللَّهُ ذُو الْفَضْلِ الْعَظِيمِ. That Allah will remove from you your misdeeds as well, and forgive you as well. These are also from the fruits and benefits of taqwa. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grants this criterion, the furqan to you. He will remove from you the misdeeds and the mistakes that you make, and forgive you as well. And Allah is the possessor of great bounty as well. And we mentioned already as well that friendship of Allah is something that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives to the person of taqwa as well. So the scholars have mentioned that achieving friendship of Allah is only for the person of taqwa. So the hadith didn't say it's only for the person of taqwa, but then we find in the Quran that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He tells us very clearly, in awliya'uhu illa al-muttaqun, that His true friends are not but the righteous. Okay, these are the friends of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Another thing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does and gives with taqwa is to prevent and protect a person from the harm of the disbelievers. Okay? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala prevents and protects a person from the harms of the kuffar, from the disbelievers. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has said, وَإِن تَصْبِرُوا وَتَتَّقُوا لَا يَضُرُّكُمْ كَيْدُهُمْ شَيْئًا إِنَّ اللَّهَ بِمَا يَعْمَلُونَ مُحِيطٌ. That if you remain patient and do taqwa, not the least harm will their plots do to you. Surely Allah surrounds all of what they do. Okay? Another thing that happens is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He makes the person become such a person that they respect the deen of Allah. Only the person who is a person of taqwa will honor the religion of Allah, will honor the sha'air of Allah, the symbols of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in Surah Hajj, ذَلِكَ وَمَنْ يُعَظِّمْ شَعَائِرَ اللَّهِ فَإِنَّهَا مِن تَقْوَى الْقُلُوبِ, that whoever honors the sha'air, the symbols of Allah, then truly this is from the piety of the heart. Another thing that is achieved from having the taqwa of Allah is that a person gains knowledge and insight because of taqwa. The more a person increases in taqwa, the more the person will go in knowledge, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will increase him in knowledge as well. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He tells us that وَاتَّقُوا اللَّهَ وَيُعَلِّمُكُمُ اللَّهُ وَاللَّهُ بِكُلِّ شَيْءٍ عَلِيمٌ. So have taqwa of Allah, and Allah will teach you, and Allah is the all-knower of each and everything. Okay? And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He also will honor a person of taqwa as well. And this is one of the main fawaid and thamarat of taqwa as well, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes that person honorable. Yeah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has told us, Ya ayyuhan nasu, inna khalaqnakum min dhakarin wa untha, wa ja'alnakum shu'uban wa qaba'ila lita'arafu, inna akramakum indallahi atqakum, inna Allaha alimun khabir. That, O mankind, we have created you from a male and a female, and made you into nations and tribes, that you may get to know one another. Verily, the most honorable of you with Allah is the believer with taqwa. Okay, so here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in this ayah completely demolishes all types of discrimination, all types of racism. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us that we are all being created from one male and one female. We're all brothers and sisters. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made us into different nations and different tribes, but so that we get to know one another. Not that we keep away from each other, there's enmity and hatred between us, but rather that the people, we get to know each other, and we all worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala together. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us that the most honorable person is not the person of any tribe or any nation, but the most honorable person is the one who has the most taqwa. Okay, so this is again from the great big benefits of taqwa as well. Likewise, on the Day of Judgment, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, one of the benefits of taqwa is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will save the people of taqwa as well. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will, as we already mentioned, He will remove the sins and enlarge the reward of the person of taqwa. For example, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says, وَمَنْ يَتَّقِ اللَّهَ يُكَفِّرْ عَنْهُ سَيِّئَاتِهِ وَيُعْظِمْ لَهُ أَجْرًا. That whoever fears Allah and keeps his duty to Him, He will remit his sins from him and will enlarge his reward. Okay? And the final one that I'm going to mention, as I said, these are just some. There are many. I can't enumerate them all. These are just some of the fruits and benefits of taqwa. And one really major one is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Surah Ali Imran, فَإِنَّ اللَّهَ يُحِبُّ الْمُتَّقِينَ. That indeed, truly, Allah loves the people of taqwa. So this love of Allah, from Allah, comes as a fruit and a benefit of taqwa. And is there anything more that we want? Then we become beloved to Allah. This is what we want. This is the result of this is the success. This is the true success. Okay. So what are the signs of taqwa in a person? Firstly, that the person, he is a person who believes in Islam with all of the arkan of Iman and all of the arkan of the deen of Islam. Okay, the pillars of Iman and the pillars of Islam. Okay, and he becomes a person who is truthful with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Yeah, it's not that like the munafiq, he lies when he says I'm Muslim. He's only saying it so the people register him as Muslim. Rather, the person, he becomes sadiqan ma'allah. He becomes truthful with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the results of that as well is that he becomes truthful with the people as well. It's not possible for a liar to be a person of taqwa. Yeah, the first one already said, not possible for a person who does shirk to be a person of taqwa. Likewise, it's not possible for a person who does bid'ah to be a person of taqwa either. The person who doesn't follow the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he's not a person of taqwa. Likewise, a person who is a liar and he lies, goes around lying to the people, this person is not a person of taqwa either. Another thing that is a sign of a person of taqwa is that he loves for his brothers what he loves for himself. Okay? He loves for his brothers what he loves for himself. He has sincerity towards the people. Okay? And another thing is that he protects himself and the Muslims and the people from harm. What's the greatest harm that we should be trying to protect ourselves and our families from? أَنفُسَكُمْ وَأَهْلِيكُمْ نَارًا. Yeah? That you protect first and foremost your family, yourself and your family, your friends from the hellfire. This is a person of taqwa. He has this concern for people. Not a person of taqwa is not that, my friend, he's going to hell, let him go to hell. No, he won't be happy with that. He will say, let me stop my friend from what's harmful for him. Yeah? From all things, big and small. And a person of taqwa, he will become a person who is very measured in what they do. Yeah, they look and they weigh what they do before they do it. They don't rush into things. They don't do things without wisdom. They don't do things, they don't get bitten from the same hole twice. As I said, these are just some of the things. A person of taqwa is such a person that when he commits a sin, then he immediately repents from that sin as well. He doesn't carry on persisting upon the sin. As soon as he is reminded, he turns back to the path of Allah. Not one of those people that if you remind them, they say, only God can judge me. That's not a person of taqwa. Yeah? Or another way that a person of taqwa is not, is when somebody tells him, fear Allah, he replies back, look at yourself. This is not the person of taqwa. The Sahaba would thank the person who told them to fear Allah. So this is what is needed. Okay? A person of taqwa is also a person of sabr, of patience. Yeah? This is because you can't have taqwa without patience. You know that everything that is happening is a test from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that I'm expecting my reward from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Yeah? And all of these things that we're talking about, all of these things are being learnt in the fasting of Ramadhān as well. Okay? Another thing is that a person of taqwa is not a show-off. A show-off cannot be a person of taqwa. A person who thinks big of themselves is not a person of taqwa. I've already mentioned about Umar radiallahu anh, how he was between hope and fear. A person of taqwa does not ever praise themselves. He doesn't come and say, I'm so pious, I do this and I do that. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has told us, فَلَا تُزَكُّوا أَنفُسَكُمْ هُوَ أَعْلَمُ بِمَنِ اتَّقَى. Do not ascribe purity to yourselves. Allah knows best who are the people who have taqwa. Yeah, so a person who is a show-off, boastful, this person again, this is a sign that the person doesn't have taqwa as well. Okay? And a person of taqwa is one who always stands up for justice and does not side with zulm at all. Yeah? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not love this. This person doesn't love oppression either. Okay? Another thing is that the person who is a person of taqwa, he will enjoin the good and forbid the evil. He will enjoin the good and he will forbid the evil. So the Prophet ﷺ has told us that man ra'a minkum munkaran falyughayyirhu biyadihi فإن لم يستطع فبلسانه فإن لم يستطع فبقلبه وذلك أضعف الإيمان. That if a person sees some evil being committed in front of him, then he must try to change that with his hand, if he has ability and it's appropriate. If he's not able to do that, then he changes it with his tongue. Again, all of these are qualified by them being having ability and being appropriate. Sometimes you may cause a greater fitna. You don't do it in that case. Okay? And then the Prophet ﷺ said, and if he is unable, then he hates it in his heart. Yeah. And that is the weakest of faith. So the person of taqwa is not the weakest of faith. The person of taqwa will always enjoy the good and forbid the evil. Okay? But in the proper way. Okay? And sometimes, unfortunately, people who are young, people who are extremely full of zeal, they can sometimes go and cause more harm in the way they enjoy good and forbid evil. Okay? This should be done on proper ilm and take advice from the scholars before you go rushing off to do something. So these are some of the signs. And I think I was going to talk next about the effects of taqwa, but I think already we've covered some of those. And I was going to also cover the effects of taqwa on society as well. And I'll just mention as the last thing about society that if we have taqwa, if the people have taqwa, this doesn't just benefit the person themselves, but it benefits the whole of society as well. All of the ills that we are seeing in society are lessened by being people of taqwa. And this we find mentioned in the Quran in many different places. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has said, for example, in Surah Al-A'raf, وَلَوْ أَنَّ أَحْلَ الْقُرَىٰ آمَنُوا وَاتَّقَوْا لَفَتَحْنَا عَلَيْهِمْ بَرَكَاتٍ مِّنَ السَّمَاءِ وَالْأَرْضِ وَلَكِنْ كَذَّبُوا فَأَخَذْنَاهُمْ بِمَا كَانُوا يَكْسِبُونَ. And if only the people of the towns had believed and had taqwa of Allah, we would have opened for them the blessings of the heavens and the earth. But they denied the messengers, so we seized them for that which they were earning. So taqwa has an effect on the whole community. It doesn't just even have an effect on the whole community, it actually has an effect on the sky sending down rain. It has an effect on the earth sending forth the vegetation. Okay? So taqwa is from the most important things that we can busy ourselves in. And this month of Ramadhān is one that is there, and the main purpose is for us to try and increase in our taqwa. So we should always try to remember this. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow us to benefit from Ramadhān and to become people of taqwa. Jazakumullah khairan.